Outgrowing friendships has got to be one of the hardest parts about leveling up your life, especially when you move somewhere new and you don't necessarily have your people yet or your community. When I moved to a new city by myself, I was never prepared for the amount of growth that was going to happen, but also the amount of loss. I want to talk about this because it's something that I'm actively going through. I decided to move away from my hometown about 3 years ago and put myself in a brand new city by myself. And one of the hardest parts about adjusting to this experience is outgrowing a lot of people, just the experience of loss overall. I feel like I've outgrown a lot of friendships. I no longer speak to a lot of people that I used to be really close with. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but it just made me realize that as you start to grow and expand as a person, it comes with a lot of loss of the identity that you've always known and those friends that you've always had. And I think a lot of this experience is not thinking that you're better than people just because you outgrow them, but it's learning to become aligned in your life. I didn't leave people behind because I was becoming better than them. I left because I was becoming different. When you naturally start to level up in your life, you are going to relate less to certain people around you. And this doesn't mean that people can't grow with you, but from my experience, putting myself in a new environment, I feel like I live a different life now. I feel like I'm a different person. As I start to show up differently in my life, I no longer relate to a lot of people that I used to be really close with. This is just a part of growth that I personally believe that you cannot avoid, especially if you want to reach your potential and just overall become very aligned with who you want to become. I think there comes this moment when you're in a new environment that there's just this feeling of grief of who you used to be, but not just that, the friends that you had when you were that version of yourself. And going through so much loss of friendships, it really changed me as a person. And I do miss sometimes having those friends around me, but I realized that there was just things that we no longer had in common. I just naturally started to outgrow these people. We didn't have much to relate on anymore. It was just a byproduct of growing and expanding as a person. And I knew that I couldn't avoid it. So I had to learn to embrace that aspect of growth. I feel like now I'm starting to get past that in between phase of no longer having those old friendships, but not necessarily having my new ones. And I'm really learning a lot about learning to build a new community for myself and what my values are and what really aligns with the person that I want to become. And so it makes sense when I look at the bigger picture of my life, envisioning who I want to become and the life that I want to build, that I had to be willing to let go of a lot of friendships that just didn't serve me anymore. It's all about normalizing that discomfort if you want more in your life. Because as you grow, you have new routines, you have a new mindset, you have a different way of approaching your life. I would just say, in general, your life starts to look different because you start to adopt a new identity. And I feel like as you grow and expand as a person, conversations naturally just change. When you come face to face with this part of your journey, I think a lot of it just comes with acceptance because not everyone grows in the same direction. There are people that will grow with you, but if I'm being honest with you, the majority of people that you've probably known for a very long time, they may not be headed in the same direction as you. And so there's going to come a point where there's like a crossroad and you're like, can I keep this person around? Are we going to grow together? Or does the path of our lives just look different than the other person's? I think for a long time I blamed myself because when I moved away from my hometown, I had a lot of loss. I naturally outgrew a lot of people. And with that process, it was very lonely. It was very isolating. And I started to question myself. I was like, was this the right decision? Am I making the right moves in my life? I felt like it was the wrong decision for a while because I felt like I was approaching my life in such a lonely way that I basically was the reason that I lost all those friendships or that I no longer related to a lot of people. And it made me want to reach back out to certain friendships. But over time, I started to realize I just outgrew these people. We don't have the same habits anymore. We don't approach our life in the same way. I think I had the most amount of friends when I was partying in my life, when I was going out, when I just had the worst habits in general for myself. And it really opened my eyes when I started to look at it on a deeper level and realize that it's no longer about quantity. It's about quality friendships who actually are aligned with the person that I want to be recognized as in my life. And if I wasn't growing with these people, we weren't keeping in contact anymore, it was for a reason. I needed to be able to understand that and embrace that. If I wanted to reach a certain level for myself, if I wanted to level up, if I wanted to grow as a person, it was just a natural part of life. And this is just your sign. If you feel like you're outgrowing a lot of people in your life, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that you're evolving as a person. Your higher self is asking more of you, and it's asking for you to be patient through this season of your life. When I was grieving those friendships, I also felt like there was a part of my life that I could never get back. And it was honestly the most painful thing to realize is that I was no longer the old version of myself. I was no longer the person that could relate to those old friendships. And forcing that connection was just not a match to who I was becoming in my life. A lot of it was just feeling alone, even though I technically made the right decision for myself. It was what I wanted. It was something that I craved for a really long time. And I did not want to deny myself that experience of growing, of changing my environment. And I had to realize that it came with uncomfortable moments, it came with the fact that I had to let go of familiarity. It was just this realization that I was now in the middle, which was very uncomfortable. I was no longer friends with the people that I used to be friends with. I no longer had my new community yet. It took a lot of patience for me to sit through that discomfort so that I could start building the community of the people that were actually a match to the life that I was building for myself. One of the reasons that I changed my environment was because I wanted to put myself around people that were living the life that I wanted, people that were very successful, possessed results that I also wanted for myself. So that I knew, because I was craving that and I decided to make that decision, I had to be willing to let go of the old and welcome in the new, which meant meeting new people, putting myself around environments that reflect the version of myself that I want to identify as. Part of choosing and meeting aligned people is not necessarily forcing a new community as you put yourself somewhere new, but kind of just allowing it to form as you start to align and make decisions in your life that are for your highest self. Being around people who match who you're becoming is so important and crucial for your growth so that you can evolve. Because when you start to put yourself around people that you want to be like, you are going to normalize the goals that you want to achieve. And not only that, you're going to be motivated. These people are going to help you become a better version of yourself. One of the most powerful things that you can do is put yourself in an environment that surrounds you with new people that reflect this new version of yourself that you are becoming. Because not only are you going to be around successful people who normalize what you want to achieve in your life, but you're going to start to meet your new community. And it takes a lot of patience. From my experience, as I started to make new decisions for myself, pursue a different career path, or put myself intentionally in environments that reflect better habits for me, I feel like I started to naturally meet people who were a match to the life that I was building. I think that's how you learn to build your community. I know a lot of people have a fear that when they move to a new environment, they're not going to meet new people, especially living in Miami. I know a lot of people think that when you move here, there's not genuine people. But I believe that if I live here and I'm a genuine person and I want better for myself, there has got to be other people that have that like-minded mindsets in this environment as well. Listen, I may not be an expert at this, but what really helped for me was putting myself in the same vicinity as the people that I wanted to be friends with, which meant going to a new workout class, maybe going to the same place that a lot of people walk, or even going to a lot of networking events where I could meet like-minded individuals. I think this is a lot about practicing embodiment, which means showing up as a version of yourself you want to be like. So if I'm the version of myself that is thriving, that has amazing friends, an amazing community, how would I approach my life? Where would I go? What would I do on a daily basis? And I think it was learning to incorporate it into my daily routine where I went to the same places every single day, like going to my gym, being around people who are pursuing the same things in life as me. Especially in Miami, I think there's a lot of stigma that all people do here is party, they go out, they drink, and do whatever, just having horrible habits in life. But if I'm being honest with you, I don't even engage with that side of Miami. I don't go to the club, I don't go out anymore, I barely party, I barely even drink. So if I have new habits in my life, if I'm showing up as a new version of myself, then I need to be around people who are like-minded, who are pursuing the same aspects in life as I am. So that allows me to meet new friendships. And by choosing this every single day, I feel like I've started to open myself up more to more fulfilling relationships. Not necessarily about quantity anymore, it's about quality. It's about being around people who normalize what I want in my life, but also cheer me on and want me to win because they're also pursuing a life that fulfills them. Be intentional about the environments that you're putting yourself in. Because if you are constantly complaining that your friendships don't evolve with you, or that your friends don't have the same aspirations as you, I want you to take a look around and see what you do on a daily basis, or where you go out on the weekends, or what you're doing with your time. Because if these people that you're surrounding yourself with don't necessarily grow, they don't want to cheer you on to win or elevate as a person, then maybe you are putting yourself in the wrong environment. Maybe you're just not surrounding yourself with people that reflect the version of yourself that you want to become. You need to be around people that normalize the goals that you want to achieve, because they are going to clap for you, they are going to motivate you, and they are going to make you feel like you are capable of becoming your highest self. It's not about having a million friends, it's about having a few genuine friendships that match the version of yourself that you want to identify as. I wanted to make this video just remind people that as you evolve and expand as a person, it is a natural part of growth to lose friendships, to outgrow people, to no longer identify with the old version of yourself that maybe had a ton of friends. Part of stepping into an elevated version of yourself, it is going to come at the cost of a lot of things that you've always been very familiar with, or a lot of things that you've always known to be true for yourself. If you're one of those people that move to a new environment and you are struggling to make friendships, start putting yourself around people that you want to be friends with, which means putting yourself in different environments that maybe kind of push your comfort zone a little bit, that force you to kind of step out of things that you are very familiar with. Be in the environments of the people that you want a life like. So you can not only watch these people and study them, but you can also start to naturally relate to them. And they're going to want to be around you when you start to become that version of yourself. Let this be a reminder that if you are in an in-between phase of your life where you no longer identify with the old version of yourself, who had all those friends, but you're in the middle where you haven't necessarily met your people or your community yet, it will come, but only when you start to approach your life in a different way, a different manner. That is what I did for myself. I had to stop engaging with my old habits, and I had to start intentionally putting myself in the environment, in the spaces where the friends that I wanted to be friends with were constantly showing up in. You don't need to force your community, you kind of just need to align with it. My whole message here is that you don't necessarily need to force your community, and you don't need to reach out to old friends or reconnect with your old community. You need to be patient in the in-between phase. You need to embrace the isolation and the loneliness for a little bit of period and start intentionally putting yourself in spaces where the people that you want to be like are existing, so that you can start naturally aligning to those people. You have to make space for new people in your life and let go of things that you no longer relate to or no longer match who you are becoming. Don't be afraid to change your environment. If you're already in a new environment, then embrace it the best you possibly can, and embrace the aspect of discomfort so that you can start aligning to very fulfilling and meaningful relationships in your life. This is exactly what I did, and although I don't have this big community yet, I've started to align to people that are actually very meaningful, that clap for me, that want me to win in life. And I look at these people and I want to see myself in them. I want them to be a reflection of who I am, because I've always said that if you were to ask the people around me what they are like, I want it to reflect who I am as well. You have to hold these people to a higher standard because they should reflect you, and they should especially reflect the version of yourself that you are becoming. This has just been a part of my journey, is creating a new community for myself, especially after all the loss I've experienced with outgrowing friendships. So if you want to level up, if you want to grow together and expand into the potential that we know we are meant for, then I will see you in the next video.